Well, I think this pretty much closes the book on its Me Too. They're tuning in for Me Too. Oh, the WNBA's not going to like that. Oh, those Angel Reese trolls online that are trying to come for me and other YouTube channels, y'all aren't going to like this. Good. Too bad.
Caitlin Clark's return just shattered WNBA ticket trends, and Angel Reese can't hide her frustration. Prices crashed 70% the moment Clark was ruled out, proving who really drives the league's value. Reese's abrupt media shutdown says it all. The league is in the era of Clarkonomics, and not everyone's ready to admit it. Caitlin Clark has single-handedly turned WNBA ticket prices into luxury items. The Chicago Sky forward finds herself watching as Clark's return from injury triggers a financial earthquake that exposes exactly who drives viewership in women's basketball. The numbers tell the complete story of Clark's economic impact on the WNBA. When the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever were scheduled to play on June 7th, initial ticket prices sat at $76 per seat. These prices reflected anticipation for the Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark matchup that fans wanted to witness. However, after Clark's quad injury was announced and her absence from the game became certain, those same tickets plummeted to $25. This represents a 70% price drop based solely on one player's availability.
Proven fact is, they had a game on June 7th scheduled. It was going to be Angel Reese's team, which plays for Chicago, and then for Caitlin Clark's team. They were supposed to go up there playing Chicago on June 7th. First, the ticket sales were at $76 a ticket. Then after they found out Caitlin Clark's not playing that game, she got injured, sales dropped to $25 a ticket.
The Fever versus Mystics game provides an even more dramatic example of the Caitlin Clark effect. Before her injury announcement, the cheapest available tickets cost $41. Once fans learned Clark would not be playing, the lowest ticket price crashed to $3. $3 for a professional basketball game demonstrates the direct correlation between Clark's presence and fan willingness to spend money on WNBA entertainment.
I mean, it's more statistical proof, data, to confirm exactly what we've been saying, that Caitlin Clark is driving this whole ship, this whole bus. She's driving it. Everybody else, get in the back. Get in the back.
The venue change adds another layer to this economic phenomenon. The Sky Fever game was moved from the regular Wintrust Arena, which holds approximately 8,000 fans, to the United Center, home of the Chicago Bulls, with a capacity exceeding 20,000 seats. This venue upgrade was specifically chosen to accommodate the expected demand for the Reese-Clark showdown. When Clark's injury eliminated half of that marquee matchup, ticket sales reflected the immediate impact. Clark has fundamentally altered the economics of women's basketball. Before her arrival, WNBA tickets were priced lower than gas station food items. Now they command premium prices typically associated with major entertainment events. This transformation represents the shift from the traditional WNBA era to what industry observers call Clarkonomics, a period where one player's presence determines market value across the entire league. The most revealing moment came during Angel Reese's recent media interaction. A reporter from Big Media approached Reese with a pointed question referencing her previous statements.
Hi, Angel. David Moses with the Bigs Media. Last year, you made a powerful statement saying the reason people are watching women's basketball is not just because of one player, but because of you two. A year later, do you feel like you're
Next question. Yeah, we'll move on. Thank you.
This response marked a significant departure from Reese's previous confidence about her role in driving WNBA viewership. Last year, she publicly stated that people tuned in to watch both players, not just Clark. The current reality has made that position increasingly difficult to maintain when faced with concrete evidence of Clark's singular impact on ticket sales, television ratings, and overall league attention. The broader WNBA landscape reveals systematic resistance to acknowledging Clark's transformative influence. Players throughout the league demonstrate what observers describe as eye rolls, hard fouls, and whispers when discussing Clark's impact. This behavior reflects a mentality questioning who allowed Clark to join their exclusive circle rather than embracing the opportunity her popularity creates for everyone. Veteran players express particular resentment toward the attention Clark receives. Instead of recognizing how her success elevates the entire league's profile, some established players treat her arrival as an unwelcome intrusion rather than the revolutionary shift it represents. This resistance manifests in on-court treatment that goes beyond normal competitive play. The statistical evidence of Clark's dominance extends far beyond ticket prices. Indiana Fever jersey sales increased by 1,193% this season. The team now sells out every home game with crowds exceeding 17,000 fans. When Clark announced her entry into the WNBA draft on a Thursday afternoon, the Fever organization received over 6,000 phone calls from fans wanting to purchase season tickets by Sunday night. Even their mascot, Freddie Fever, saw appearance requests increase by 150%.
Ticket sales are down 70% in many places. The Fever played the Mystics 2 nights ago. The cheapest ticket before her injury was announced was $41, okay? The cheapest one. After her injury was announced and people knew that she wasn't going to be playing, the lowest ticket price dropped to $3. This is the Caitlin Clark effect. The WNBA doesn't quite realize what they have in Caitlin Clark. She is the absolute golden goose, the golden ticket. She is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. They must protect her at all costs. You can argue all you want if she's the best player in the league, but you absolutely cannot argue if she's the most important, because she is. She is more valuable than all the other players combined, and that is just a fact.
Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has attempted to claim credit for the WNBA's sudden popularity surge. She presents herself as the architect of strategic growth initiatives that supposedly created the current boom. Engelbert authored an article explaining her 3-pillar strategy and how her leadership transformed the league. However, this narrative ignores the obvious connection between Clark's arrival and the WNBA's mainstream breakthrough. Engelbert's article mentions Clark's name only 2 or 3 times while extensively detailing her own contributions to league growth. She credits her work in partnership with NBA colleagues and WNBA owners for developing strategies that think player first. This self-congratulatory approach attempts to reframe Clark's individual impact as the result of organizational planning that predated her arrival. The reality contradicts Engelbert's version of events. The WNBA struggled with attendance and television ratings before Clark entered the league. Games were relegated to secondary television slots, often appearing after obscure programming like cornhole championships. The league's transformation occurred specifically after Clark's college career captured national attention and carried over to her professional debut. Clark faces physical treatment that raises concerns about the league protecting its most valuable asset. She absorbs excessive contact that referees allow to continue with minimal intervention. This play-on mentality puts the league's primary economic driver at unnecessary risk. Clark draws more fouls than typical for a player of her position and style, yet receives inadequate protection from officials. The economic stakes make this treatment particularly problematic. Clark represents the WNBA's equivalent of LeBron James, Serena Williams, or Stephen Curry, a transcendent athlete who elevates their sport's entire profile. Her presence inflates paychecks across the league as television contracts improve and attendance increases. Ticket scalping around WNBA games now operates at levels previously seen only for major concerts by artists like Beyoncé. Media coverage of the WNBA has transformed completely due to Clark's presence. ESPN now provides extensive coverage of league games rather than burying them between niche programming. National sports media treats WNBA games as legitimate sporting events worthy of primetime attention. Social media platforms buzz with debates about women's basketball strategy and individual player performances. Male sports fans who previously ignored women's basketball now follow WNBA storylines and attend games. This crossover appeal represents the type of cultural breakthrough professional women's sports have sought for decades. TikTok features regular content analyzing WNBA plays and discussing league dynamics, bringing younger audiences into the conversation. The paradigm shift extends beyond typical sports coverage. Crowds at Fever games create more noise during warm-up sessions than many teams generate during actual gameplay. This enthusiasm reflects genuine excitement about witnessing Clark's performances rather than obligatory support for local teams. Clark's influence operates even when she's not actively playing. Her mere presence on a roster affects television ratings, merchandise sales, and arena atmosphere. When she sits on the bench due to injury, fans still fill arenas hoping for a potential appearance. The current situation exposes the gap between Clark's actual impact and the recognition she receives from league officials and fellow players. While statistics prove her transformative effect on WNBA economics and popularity, resistance persists from those who should benefit most from her success. Angel Reese's awkward media moment exemplifies this broader reluctance to acknowledge the obvious reality that one player has fundamentally changed women's professional basketball.
Jockeying for position, hopefully for home court. Think she'll want that badly. They're as good as it gets in the NBA. At home is Reeves. Drills one.
Luka Doncic has just delivered the most devastating blow to the Dallas Mavericks organization in franchise history. And what he revealed about his shocking trade to the Los Angeles Lakers has completely exposed the incompetence and desperation that led to the worst front office decision in NBA history. The 26-year-old superstar's explosive comments about his February 2025 trade have sent shockwaves through the basketball world, and the catastrophic details that have emerged paint a picture of organizational dysfunction so severe that it will haunt the Mavericks for decades to come. What happened behind the scenes during Luka's trade negotiations wasn't just poor management. It was systematic organizational malpractice that has left Dallas as the laughingstock of the entire NBA while simultaneously creating the biggest what-if scenario in modern basketball history. The trade itself represents one of the most lopsided deals ever executed in professional sports. Dallas sent their 26-year-old generational talent to Los Angeles in exchange for 32-year-old Anthony Davis, role player Max Christie, and a distant 2029 first-round pick. The age difference alone makes this trade look like highway robbery, but the deeper you examine the details, the more catastrophic this decision becomes. Luka Doncic, a top 5 player at age 26, was traded for Anthony Davis, who is 32, the brutal mathematics reveal. We're talking about trading away a player entering his prime for someone clearly on the decline, a decision so fundamentally flawed that it defies basic basketball logic. But the most damaging revelation came when it was discovered that the Mavericks consulted only a couple of teams about potential deals, missing out on other lucrative offers. This represents a complete failure of due diligence that has cost Dallas potentially franchise-altering assets. The Chicago Bulls' explosive revelation has made this disaster even more embarrassing for the Mavericks. Bulls executive Arturas Karnisovas and his front office would have offered anyone and everyone on the roster had they been notified by the Mavericks that Luka Doncic was available in February. Think about the implications of this statement. The Bulls were prepared to mortgage their entire future for Luka, potentially offering multiple first-round picks, young players, and established veterans in a package that could have dwarfed what the Lakers provided. Yet the Mavericks never even picked up the phone to explore this option. However, the Mavericks only engaged in trade discussions with the Lakers, and the Bulls' potential offer was never considered, the damning evidence reveals. This isn't just poor negotiation, this is organizational negligence of the highest order. The most infuriating part of this entire debacle is that the consensus among analysts is that the Mavericks made a hasty decision without fully exploring the market. In other words, Dallas panicked and took the first offer they received instead of conducting a proper auction for one of the NBA's most valuable assets. Luka's own reaction to being traded has been telling. The fact that the deal surprised not only fans but Doncic himself suggests that even the player at the center of the trade was blindsided by Dallas's incompetence. When your franchise player is shocked by your decision-making, that tells you everything about how poorly the situation was handled. The Lakers' acquisition of Luka has been described as one of the most significant trades in NBA history, and the first time 2 reigning All-NBA players were exchanged mid-season, but calling this an acquisition is generous. This was more like a heist executed in broad daylight while the Mavericks' front office slept through the robbery. Since joining Los Angeles, Luka has posted respectable numbers: 28.2 points, 8.1 assists, and 7.5 rebounds in 28 games. But even his performance has been overshadowed by the Lakers' disappointing playoff exit. The team fell short, exiting the playoffs in the first round after a loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves, which has only added to the controversy surrounding this blockbuster move. Critics have pointed to his defensive struggles and conditioning during the Timberwolves series, But these concerns pale in comparison to the long-term implications of what Dallas gave up. Even if Luka struggles initially in Los Angeles, he's still a 26-year-old superstar with his best years ahead of him. The fan reaction to the Bulls' revelation has been brutal but accurate. Did I miss the Bulls having anyone better than AD? That team is a pile of garbage. You couldn't even trade the entire roster for a third-team All-NBA player. One fan wrote, highlighting the perceived weakness of Chicago's potential offer. But this misses the point entirely. The issue isn't whether the Bulls had better individual players. The issue is that the Mavericks never gave them the chance to compete for Luka's services. Multiple first-round picks, young prospects, and salary cap flexibility could have created a package far superior to what Dallas received. For who? Vuk and Ayo. Another fan joked about the Bulls' roster. But again, this demonstrates the narrow thinking that plagued Dallas's approach. NBA trades aren't just about current roster talent. They're about future assets, draft capital, and long-term flexibility. The most damaging aspect of this entire fiasco is what it reveals about Dallas's organizational priorities. The Mavericks aimed for a win-now strategy, trading Doncic for Anthony Davis, but this logic is fundamentally flawed when you're trading a 26-year-old for a 32-year-old. If Dallas truly wanted to win now, they should have built around Luka, not traded him away. The fact that they believed Anthony Davis represented a better path to immediate success than Luka Doncic suggests a front office completely disconnected from basketball reality. The broader implications for the Mavericks' future are catastrophic. The Mavericks could face scrutiny over their trade strategy, impacting their roster decisions moving forward. But scrutiny is the least of their problems. They've traded away a generational talent in his prime and received declining assets in return. The ripple effects of this trade could redefine how organizations approach future transactions. And the lesson is clear. When you have a superstar available, you explore every possible option and create a competitive bidding environment. The Mavericks' failure to do this basic due diligence will be studied in business schools as an example of catastrophic negotiation failure. The most revealing line in this entire mess comes from post-trade analysis. The Luka Doncic trade exemplifies how critical thorough market exploration is in high-stakes negotiations. Dallas didn't just lose a superstar, they showed the league exactly how not to handle a franchise-altering decision. While future teams may learn from this and approach trades with more strategy, for the Mavericks, those conversations will only highlight their massive failure and lasting embarrassment. The Lakers may have just pulled off the trade of the decade, landing a 26-year-old Luka Doncic for aging pieces and minimal future risk. At the same time, Dallas handed over its franchise cornerstone without exploring stronger offers. Even if Luka's first Lakers playoff run fell short, LA now has a generational star locked in, and Dallas is left clinging to the fading hope that a 32-year-old Anthony Davis can carry them. Mavericks fans are justifiably furious, knowing their front office blew it historically. This wasn't just a loss, it was a meltdown, and the fallout could haunt Dallas for years.
Sims takes the inbound feed. Here's Plum, a hop in her step. Plum, the blow-by in the left hand.
What happens when a rising rookie meets a battle-tested champion and gets publicly humiliated on the court? One viral gesture, one fierce response, and a rivalry the WNBA didn't see coming. This isn't just about basketball. It's about pride, power, and the fire that's fueling Angel Reese's rise. And it all started with two words: too small. The Los Angeles Sparks were already in control of the game, up by double digits. Plum, known for her fearlessness and 2 WNBA titles, drove hard to the basket. Angel Reese, the rookie phenom with a reputation for toughness, stepped up to contest. Plum finished the play, then turned and flashed the too small hand gesture toward Reese. It wasn't subtle, it was sharp, and it sparked immediate debate. Plum's move wasn't just about one play, it was a message, a veteran laying claim to her territory. For someone like Plum, who's climbed to the top of the league with grit and persistence, a rookie like Reese, famous more for her college stardom and social presence, might feel like a challenger who hasn't earned her stripes yet. But here's where things get even more interesting. Plum didn't just drop the taunt and move on. She dominated. Scoring 28 points with 8 assists, she was the heartbeat of her team's win. It was a masterclass in experience, and it happened on a night where all eyes were already on Reese. Reese didn't clap back online. She didn't call out Plum in interviews. Instead, she played ball.